The stadium is never truly silent, even in the moments before a throw. There is the distant rustle of flags, the soft echo of footsteps on concrete, the quiet tension of thousands of people holding their breath. On the runway, the world narrows. The javelin feels familiar in the hand, not as a weapon, not as a burden, but as an extension of years of repetition. For Katharina Molitor, these moments were never about spectacle. They were about control, patience, and trust in a process shaped over decades. Her story is not one of instant dominance. It is the story of a woman who learned to wait for her moment, who endured seasons where progress was invisible to the public eye, and who refused to let setbacks define the limits of her ambition. In a sport where careers are often measured by centimeters and seconds, she built hers on consistency and quiet resilience. Long before medals, before Olympic finals, before a world title changed the course of her life, she was simply an athlete learning how to throw, learning how to balance power with precision, confidence with humility. Katharina Molitor was born on November 8, 1983, in Bedburg, in what was then West Germany. Her upbringing unfolded far from the global spotlight, in an environment where sport was part of daily life rather than a path to fame. As a child, she was physically active, energetic, and drawn naturally to movement. Athletics offered structure, challenge, and a sense of belonging. From an early age, she showed coordination and physical awareness that set her apart, but nothing suggested a future world champion. What stood out instead was her willingness to work, to repeat, to improve incrementally. Her first exposure to track and field involved multiple disciplines. Like many young athletes, she experimented with different events, learning how her body responded to speed, strength, and technique. Over time, the javelin began to emerge as her strongest event. It demanded a rare combination of explosive force and fine motor control, a balance she found compelling. The throw required patience, every phase mattered, every step, every angle. For Molitor, that complexity became a source of fascination rather than frustration. As she progressed through youth athletics, she entered structured training environments that emphasized technical development and discipline. German athletics is known for its systematic approach, and she advanced within that system step by step. Youth competitions introduced her to national-level pressure, while early international meets exposed her to the depth of global competition. Results came gradually. There were no sudden leaps to the top, no early guarantees of senior success. Instead, there was steady improvement, season after season. Her transition from junior to senior athletics marked the first true test of her commitment. The demands increased dramatically physically, mentally, and emotionally. Training volumes rose, competition schedules intensified, and expectations shifted. Many athletes struggle at this stage, but Molitor adapted. She focused on refining her technique, strengthening her body, and learning how to manage the rhythm of an elite athletic career. By the mid-2000s, she had established herself as a reliable presence in German javelin throwing. She earned selection for major championships and gained experience against the best throwers in the world. These years were defined less by medals and more by learning. Each competition offered feedback. Each season revealed strengths to build upon and weaknesses to address. She developed a reputation for consistency, not always the longest thrower in the field, but one who could be trusted to deliver solid performances under pressure. Her first Olympic appearance came in 2008 in Beijing. Simply qualifying for the Games represented a major achievement, the culmination of years of preparation. The Olympic stage introduced a new level of intensity, where every movement was magnified and every throw carried enormous weight. Molitor advanced to the final and finished 8th, an outcome that confirmed her ability to compete at the highest level while also highlighting how narrow the margins were. Rather than treating the experience as an endpoint, she used it as motivation. The years following Beijing were marked by continued refinement. She adjusted her training, focused on efficiency, and worked to increase the reliability of her best throws. Injuries are an ever-present reality in throwing events, but she managed her body carefully, prioritizing longevity over short-term risk. By the time the 2012 Olympic Games approached, she was a more complete athlete. Her technique was smoother, her approach more controlled, and her competitive awareness sharper. In London, she once again reached the Olympic final, finishing 6th. It was an improvement on her previous Olympic result and further evidence of her steady upward trajectory. Still, medals remained elusive. For some athletes, that gap between finalist and podium becomes a source of frustration. For Molitor, it became fuel. Outside the stadium, she cultivated a life that extended beyond athletics. She pursued academic studies with the goal of becoming a teacher, balancing education with elite-level training. The dual commitment required discipline and careful time management, but it also provided perspective. Sport was central to her identity, but not the sole pillar of her life. That balance would later prove invaluable. She also maintained a strong connection to volleyball, competing at a high level in Germany. The team environment contrasted sharply with the solitary nature of javelin throwing, offering social connection and a different form of competitive expression. The physical demands complemented her athletic development, while the teamwork reinforced values of cooperation and mutual support. As her career entered its second decade, Molitor remained a fixture at major championships. World championships and European competitions became familiar territory. She advanced through qualification rounds, contested finals, and represented Germany with consistency. While she did not dominate the discipline, she remained competitive across multiple Olympic cycles, an achievement that reflected durability as much as talent. Yet beneath the surface, the pressure to break through persisted. The difference between being respected and being remembered often comes down to a single moment. For Molitor, that moment had not yet arrived. Seasons passed where progress felt incremental rather than transformative. Still, she stayed the course, trusting the process she had built. By 2015, she entered the World Championships not as the favorite, but as a seasoned contender. Years of experience had taught her how to manage nerves, how to read competitions, and how to conserve energy for when it mattered most. She arrived prepared, calm, and focused, ready, whether she realized it or not, for the defining moment of her career. The calm she carried into the 2015 season was not accidental. It was the product of years spent learning how to endure uncertainty without losing focus. By then, Katharina Molitor understood her body, her technique, and the rhythm of elite competition. She was no longer chasing form, she was protecting it, shaping it, waiting for the moment when everything aligned. The World Championships that year unfolded with familiar intensity. Qualification rounds narrowed the field, separating those who could manage pressure from those who could not. Molitor advanced steadily, her throws controlled rather than explosive, measured rather than reckless. In the final, the margins were razor-thin. The lead changed hands, distances clustered within centimeters. Each athlete knew that one throw could decide everything. As the competition reached its final round, Molitor stood outside the top position. Years of experience had taught her how easily such moments could slip away, how hesitation, even for a fraction of a second, could disrupt timing. She stepped onto the runway with clarity. The approach was smooth, the transition fluid, the release clean. The javelin cut through the air with authority and landed farther than any throw before it. That single moment altered the trajectory of her career. With that throw, Katharina Molitor became world champion. It was not a victory built on surprise alone, but on preparation refined across seasons. The result elevated her from respected contender to global title holder, confirming that patience and persistence could still triumph in a sport increasingly defined by early specialization. The aftermath brought recognition and expectation. Media attention increased, and with it came the pressure of defending success, yet Molitor remained grounded. She understood that one championship did not erase the demands of training or the unpredictability of competition. Her approach did not change dramatically. Instead, she reinforced the habits that had carried her to the top. The following year presented another defining challenge, the European Championships. Competing on continental soil against familiar rivals, she entered the event as a leading figure. The competition was intense, but her composure remained intact. Once again, timing and execution aligned. When the final results were confirmed, she stood atop the European podium as champion, adding another major title to her record. That European crown reinforced her status among the elite of her discipline. She had now claimed both world and European titles, achievements that placed her firmly within the history of German javelin throwing. Yet even at this stage, her career was not without complexity. Elite sport often involves challenges that extend beyond the field of play. And Molitor's path was no exception. As the Olympic cycle progressed toward Rio, the environment grew increasingly demanding. Qualification standards, selection procedures, and administrative decisions added layers of pressure that athletes had to navigate alongside physical preparation. For Molitor, this period tested not just her athletic ability, but her emotional resilience. Despite the uncertainty, she continued to train and compete with professionalism, determined to let her performances speak for themselves. Although the Olympic experience did not culminate in another final appearance, her contributions to the sport were already secure. Few athletes sustain relevance across multiple Olympic cycles while remaining competitive at world and continental levels. Molitor had achieved precisely that, demonstrating longevity in an event that places enormous strain on the body. As she entered the later years of her career, she approached competition with perspective. Victories were appreciated, setbacks accepted. Training sessions were no longer driven by urgency, but by intention. She understood her limits, respected her recovery, and valued sustainability over short-term gain. In 2018, competing at the European Championships in Berlin, she reached the closing chapter of her athletic journey. The setting carried symbolic weight, a major championship on home soil, surrounded by familiar supporters. When the competition concluded, she made the decision to step away from elite athletics. Retirement was not framed as an end, but as a transition. Her time on the international stage had reached its natural conclusion. Stepping away from professional competition allowed Molitor to redirect her energy toward pursuits that had always existed alongside sport. Her academic path, centered on education, became a primary focus. Teaching offered continuity with athletics, an opportunity to guide, mentor, and inspire through structured development rather than competition. Her experience as an elite athlete informed her approach, grounding theory in lived understanding. Volleyball continued to play a role in her life as well, maintaining the connection to team sport that had balanced her individual athletic career. The shift from global competition to community engagement marked a different kind of fulfillment, one defined by contribution rather than results. Looking back, Katharina Molitor's career resists simple narratives. It is not the story of a prodigy who dominated from the outset, nor of an athlete defined solely by medals. It is the story of consistency, of belief maintained through years without guarantees. Her world title stands as a pinnacle, but it is supported by a foundation of discipline, adaptability, and quiet determination. She represented Germany across multiple generations of competition, navigating evolving standards and rising global depth. She reached Olympic finals, claimed continental and world titles, and sustained excellence in one of athletics' most demanding disciplines. Perhaps most importantly, she demonstrated that success does not always arrive on schedule, but when it does, it belongs fully to those who waited and worked for it. Katharina Molitor's legacy lives not only in record books, but in the example she set. She showed that patience can coexist with ambition, that balance does not weaken performance, and that resilience often matters more than early acclaim. Her story reminds us that behind every medal lies a human journey shaped by choices, sacrifices, and moments of courage unseen by the crowd. Thank you for watching this story on Behind the Medal. If Katharina Molitor's journey resonated with you, please like the video, share it with others who appreciate the deeper stories of sport, and subscribe to the channel for more documentaries that explore what it truly takes to reach the highest level. This video contains generated images. They are used only for creative illustration and may not represent the athlete's exact appearance.